If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we are back. I'm joined by our in-house CIA operative, Jeff MD, aka 007. Before somebody sends us a nasty gram, says 007 was from Great Britain, or another nasty gram saying that that's bullshit, that he's actually from Winnipeg, Canada. Jeff MD is the American version of 007. Deal with it.
It helps. A lot of my relatives are English, so.
Well, that explains it all right there. Did the CIA ever station you in Winnipeg? Like, did you have to go out there and tend to Native Canadian tribes or anything like that?
Oh, I never went to Winnipeg, don't you know?
Hey, beer and donuts. Good stuff.
Yeah, Hoser?
I shit you not. I flew from San Diego into Winnipeg years ago to teach a course at Sun, and it was minus 40 degrees. So minus 40 Fahrenheit is the same minus 40 in Celsius. And so they checked us into this hotel downtown, and the exterior walls of this hotel were solid floor to ceiling glass, and they seated us at this table close to the window. I had my jacket on. I dang near focused. Eventually I was like, hey, could y'all move us somewhere else? Like, we're freezing here. And they said, yeah, sure, no problem. And while we sat there, which wasn't for very long, maybe 10 minutes, every minute there was like a hooker walking past us. This was in a high-end hotel, by the way. And we're all looking at each other going, what's down around the other end of the bar down there? And why do these hookers keep coming into this fancy hotel? So they moved us around the corner, and there was a casino around the corner, and it was full of all kinds of creatures. But anyway, that's my Winnipeg experience. The one and only time I've been there. Actually, Jeff, you'll get a kick out of this. When I flew into San Diego is almost impossible to get an English-speaking cab driver. They're all from Somalia and places like that. And I said to this guy, I said, hey, take me to the Manchester Grand Hyatt, which is right downtown by the base. And actually, it's right across the road from the bar from Top Gun, where they're singing, you know, you've lost that loving feeling. All the bras are all up there. They're still there, by the way. Worst ribs I've ever had in my life, by the way. Anyway, so I say to the guy, take me to the Manchester Grand Hyatt. We get out in traffic. There's 6 lanes, 3 lanes each side. He stops in the middle of traffic, no stoplight or anything, and hands me a map. Doesn't speak a lick of English, and he's pointing at the map, wants me to point where the Manchester Grand Hyatt is. Of course, this is before smartphones and stuff. This was probably 25 years ago. So anyway, that cab ride was less than 10 minutes, was like $50, right? I fly into Winnipeg. The airport's like an hour away from downtown. We get to the hotel, and the guy says, yeah, that'll be $8. I said, pardon? He said, that'll be $8. I said, seriously? He goes, is that too much? I'm like, no, not at all. Keep the change. So it's a different world in Winnipeg, Canada, let me tell you. All right, let's jump right in here tonight. We've got all kinds of crazy stuff going on with DOGE and the courts in particular. And a lot of these activist judges are way, way, way out of line. And we've got a whole bunch of articles and commentary to that effect that I'm fixed to bring up here very, very shortly. So let's get up with the first one here. I get so much on the go right now. It's not even funny. We need a producer. Have you guys ever heard me mention that by chance, that we could really use a producer? If anybody wants,
vaguely familiar.
Yeah, if anybody wants to come work Survival Dispatch for free, it's a good job. All right, here we go. 2.7 trillion up in smoke, all of it your money. The DOGE committee will launch the war on waste tomorrow at 10 a.m. You don't want to miss it. This was today, so 10 a.m. tomorrow, 1 minute, 5 seconds.
Government has wasted nearly $3 trillion in taxpayer
money since $170 billion in improper payments last year.
$247 billion.
Billions blown on improper payments.
Made to people that should not have received them.
Overpayments, payments to the wrong recipient.
Dead people received more than $530 million last year in pension payments. Medicare paying $47 billion.
Hundreds of billions of dollars.
Medicaid improperly issuing $81 billion.
$644 million was fraud.
And $764 billion under 3 years of the Biden administration.
These improper payments have piled up to a total of $2.8 trillion.
$14 billion per month, or enough to pay for 5 years of U.S. foreign aid to all countries.
For every man, woman, and child across the country, it was $850.
Who is receiving these payments? Well, in some instances, dead people.
All right.
Doge man.
The Doge man. There you go. I've got a couple more articles and videos I want to pull up here just to set the stage, and then I'm going to go to S2 first because he's got some interesting information on these judges. But here's a snippet from a press conference this afternoon in the Oval Office. 1 minute, 2 seconds.
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about 30 million,
right,
etc.?
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But just this seems to be they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where do they come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at,
So he goes on to mention Congress critters, $174,000 a year salary, and somehow are worth, $30 million. And we've all suspected this, obviously, for a long time. If you go to patreon.com and pull down tonight's brief, there's actually longer versions of the links in here, but the video, I should say. But I've got another one. It's only 24 seconds long. This is some more fraud that's going on.
There's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous.
So you've got civil servants making $100,000, $200,000 a year, worth many millions of dollars. You got people collecting Social Security that are 150 years old. And of course, the left is melting down over Elon's involvement in this. So as of today, right here, I am putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm cutting off all government subsidies to my companies. How will the mainstream media spin this? There's another post he made just above that. At this point, I'm 100% certain that the magnitude of the fraud of federal entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, disability, etc., exceeds the combined sum of every private scam you ever heard by far. It's not even close. So this next one is a video that's gone viral. It's 35 seconds. This girl does a really good job of breaking down precisely how the Democrats and the RINOs are behaving in light of this.
Democrats are acting like cheating boyfriends right now. I'm sorry, but somebody's got to say it. I'm independent. I think there's good ideas on both sides. There's bad ideas on both sides. But what this DOGE audit is reminding me of is a girl taking her boyfriend's phone and hiding in the bathroom. And the Democrats are just banging on the door. And they're like, you are invading my privacy. You can't go through my phone. And Elon Musk is like, yes, I can. I can see what you've been up to. And then every time Musk comes out of the bathroom, he's like, look, see what you did? They just turn it around and they're like, you invaded my privacy. This was your fault. You broke my trust.
All right. So that's the
Democrats are acting like cheating boyfriends right now. I'm sorry, but
thing, and I hate that when that happens. So that's the opening articles and videos on the latest developments in the DOGE world. So we're going to get deep into the judges who've been ruling on some of this stuff. And actually, let me show you this quickly before you go, S2. And this guy makes a really good point, Sean Davis. The judiciary is most certainly not a co-equal branch of government. Only the Supreme Court is. The rest of the federal judiciary is inferior. The Constitution's words, not mine, and was created by and exists entirely at the pleasure of Congress. Inferior federal judges who see themselves as equal to the president or Congress are wrong as a matter of both law and fact. That's a really important comment that people need to take into consideration on all of this. I personally think that this, I'm just going to throw this out here before you go, as to myself, if I'm in Donald Trump's shoes, unless it comes from SCOTUS, I'm going to tell them to pound sand, and I'm not doing whatever the heck ridiculous activist stuff they're saying. And I wouldn't be the first person, because I have a video of AOC telling Joe Biden to do the exact same thing. All right, S2, we're going to get into all these crooked judges. Engelmeyer was the first one who shut down DOGE's access to a bunch of stuff, did it ex parte, meaning at 1 o'clock in the morning, no notification to Trump, no notification for any attorneys to be there other than the plaintiffs, the crybabies, which was Letitia James. What has Judge Engelmeyer and his wife got their fingers into, S2?
Well, there was a post running around out on X where they were saying something about his wife having her hand in an organization called NIANA, which was the New York something Immigrants Association. Oh no, New Americans Association is what it was. But that is actually that's actually false, but not really false. And I'll tell you why. Because the NIANA actually, it looks like it either merged or was closed in 2008. And from things that I've gathered, it looks like it merged with HIAS, who was the Hebrew immigration thing that Mayorkas belonged to. And when we go down this rabbit hole a little further, so it's not Engelmeyer himself that has, well, he has dirty hands because of this, but basically Emily Felice Mandelstam, she doesn't go by Engelmeyer for some reason, but there's a marriage certificate on file that they're actually married, but she's the father of Charles Mandelstam, who was a lawyer at McLaughlin and Stern LLP. And look, turns out that Paul Engelmeyer also has, I believe it's a brother, it could be a son of Emily Felice Mandelstam, who goes by Judah Engelmeyer, and a little bit on him, maybe a little bit later. But basically, here's what I've been able to find. Emily Felice Mandelstam, she is the director of a company called Trinity Episcopal School Corporation. Y'all might want to get your pencils down and write this, because this is a web. She also has ties to the Council on Foreign Relations. Anybody remember that?
What, very well.
She also has ties to R.A. Bahrain BSC, which basically is the Islamic Bank of Bahrain. And she's also has ties to the Duke Islamic Study Center. And then what's interesting about Bahrain is the Islamic Bank of Bahrain, all of the money from Hamas and IRGC is laundered through that region, coming by way of Kuwait and some other places. So then we look down beyond that and what her connections are. She's also, through proxy Council of Foreign Relations, has ties to John Sexton, who was the former New York Fed chairman, and also Lisa Maria Caputo. And she was the press secretary at the U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate for a while. But she's actually, it looks like she's a board member on the Council of Foreign, board member on the Council on Foreign Relations, while John Sexton is a corporate officer of that entity. So what all of these, and this is just really very high level stuff because it goes a lot deeper than this, but what all of these people have in common on the Council of Foreign Relations, they all have some kind of a board position on the Trinity Episcopal School Corporation, whether it's just being a member, a director, or whatever. But John Sexton, what's interesting about him is he has direct ties to David Rubenstein. And who is David Rubenstein? David Rubenstein was the dude that is the owner of the Baltimore Orioles. He's also one of those other pieces of shit that Biden gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to. And Trump just removed him from the Kennedy Center as chairman. So these guys, it looks like this judge is knee deep into, and by the way, David Rubenstein also has ties with Islamic organizations too, like the Duke Islamic Studies Center. Like I said, this is really high level. I could sit here and probably talk on this all night long, and I'd never get to the end. But it really looks like that there is something going on here with this Bahrain bank. And I believe that there's probably some ties to money laundering going on there that's going on behind our backs in Congress.
Now, the Bahrain Bank, is that Bahrain or Bahrain Bank?
Bahrain.
Oh, Bahrain. Okay. So it's in Manama?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
yeah, because Bahrain became a banking center when they ran out of oil 20 years ago.
Well, this was the BISC, the Bank of Islamic something or other.
Because Bahrain is run by Sunnis, but the majority of the population is Shia, which is a sore point among both.
So interesting comment on that, by the way. So my brother-in-law was Navy Intel for 12 years, and he ran the Intel desk for Bahrain. And he was over there frequently, back here, of course, in DC. And obviously he can't give up a lot of information. It's highly top secret stuff. But he said you would be surprised at the number of weapons that changed hands in that country, going from one bad actor to another. And he said it was so extensive, and you can probably relate to this, Jeff, as well, that the goal on our part was to just try and keep them out of the worst bad guys' hands. So in other words, you could never put a lid on the whole thing, but if you can make sure that it was in the call it the best of the shit bags and not the worst of the shit bags, that was the end game.
Yeah, I've been to Bahrain a few times, and nice place actually, but it is like Casablanca for the Middle East. It's kind of like this open city where the Iranians are there. We have a fleet base there. The Brits are there because they used to own it. The Saudis are there because they treat it as their bar, because you can buy liquor in Bahrain, but you can't in Saudi Arabia. So there's a causeway that connects the two. And, the Saudis jokingly refer to Bahrain as our bar, because what they do is they drive to Bahrain, they get shit-faced, and they drive home. But it's an interesting place. Yeah, I have a Hard Rock Cafe Bahrain T-shirt. I mean, it's a fun place.
So what's interesting, what's even more interesting about this? So the original bank had to close. It was a joint investment bank, and I guess it turned into another bank called R Capita, and it appears as though that bank went bankruptcy. But this was the R Capita was where the West meets the Southern District of New York. So R Capita was based out of there and run by a guy named Charles Ogden.
This wiring diagram for all these people looks like a plate of spaghetti without sauce.
It does. And in fact, there's just so many.
If you unspooled 1,000 feet of fishing line and put it in a box, that's what it looks like. And you're trying to trace all this stuff. It's convoluted on purpose.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I have some resources that actually breaks down each one of their individual connections, so I can see at least that much on a picture scale rather than trying to look at it all blown up like an obsidian rock.
Do you have an object-oriented database that you're using?
I don't. I'm using somebody else's resource.
Oh, okay.
All right. So that's one judge of multiple judges now that are getting in on this. This video here does a great job of breaking it down. It's 5 minutes and 42 seconds. I can't play the whole video, but I'll play a good portion of it so that you get the gist of just how crooked these people are.
Remember the federal employee buyout offer? About 65,000 said, sounds good to me. 6 months and I'm out. I'll move to the private sector. Well, a court says hold off on that. So we're in a perpetual hold. DOGE has access to U.S. Treasury data. Well, if you want to get to the billing, the bills that come in and what the payouts are, you have to take a look at it. They think that DOGE, with unelected people looking at Treasury, that's looking at too much personal data to people that weren't, I guess, officially czar or cabinet members. That's on hold right now. But it's only, keep in mind, it's only a read-only situation. So what's the harm? Maybe the facts are the harm. Transferring transgender inmates from women's prisons. A remarkable amount of male criminals decide they want to be women. I think there's a little problem with that. You can make a decision if the court is right to see if there's something behind it. Birthright citizenship is working through a constitutional argument. We expected that to happen. It's lost twice, the president has, but the higher they go, they might get some friendly judges and have a legitimate argument. Was this the founders' actual thought around the Civil War when this came into play? USAID worker layoffs. They've taken the name off the building. They've told everyone they're breaking the lease. These employees were told to go home. Many people think this judge says a lot of people will be harmed if they are immediately let go. Folded into the State Department will be some type of resolve there. And the federal spending freeze. That's what the president did when he first walked in. I'll tell you, the judge is going to decide if that is indeed constitutional. I think it is. We're going to talk to someone in a matter of.
All right. So suffice it to say, it's all out lawfare now. And Jeff, I'll go to you first, just in general, not specific judges, but the concept of these lower judges.
The concept is these low-level judges telling the president of the United States he can't do his job is bullshit. And they need to just ignore them for the simple reason that Article 2 of the Constitution outlines what the president is responsible for. And nowhere in that does it say, unless a judge doesn't like it. The only court recognized by the U.S. Constitution is the Supreme Court. All the others are there at the pleasure of Congress. But they don't have authority over the president. I mean, if the president shoots somebody, sure, fine. But Andrew Jackson said it best when Marshall ruled against, I think it was Georgia on the, on something to do with the Indians. And Marshall ruled against Georgia, and Andrew Jackson's response was, "Well, Marshall made his decision. Now he can enforce it." Well, of course he can't, because they have no means to enforce it. It's just like when Eric Holder was found in contempt of Congress, nothing happened to him because the Obama administration was like, we're not going to enforce, we don't care. We're not going to enforce it. And and this judge can write all the restraining orders he wants. But if Trump goes, we don't recognize your authority over us because we're the federal government, I'm the chief executive, this is the daily functions of the executive branch, bite me. If the employees want to sue under some civil service thing, let them, but I'm still going forward. And they need to just basically go, up yours, we're going. Because when push comes to shove and it gets to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court's going to say, sorry, Judge Engelmeyer, your opinion doesn't override the Constitution. So kiss off. And that's what they need to do, and just move apace. And all these people who said, oh, getting laid off from USAID hurts these people. Well, guess what? Not giving them a raise hurts these people. So that they automatically get a raise every year? No. Raising my taxes hurts me. Does that mean they're not allowed to raise taxes? No. Get over it. Put on your big boy pants and move on.
So that's perfect, Jeff. That's exactly what I would expect from you. The entire big picture on it as far as how constitutional this stuff is. And it's not. What amazes me is that people in the public have bought into this concept that it is constitutional. It's not.
No.
Like there's no foundation for it in the Constitution whatsoever.
And the Democrats know it too. It's a stall tactic.
Bingo.
What they're hoping is that Trump and the administration will say, okay, we'll wait and we'll appeal to eventually they'll get to the Supreme Court. What they need to do is say, screw that. We're not going to not do our job pending an appeal. We're going to go ahead and let them try and stop us. And oh, by the way, they have no means to stop us. The courts have no police. They can't go arrest the president. They can't go arrest the Secretary of the Treasury. What are they going to arrest him for? Doing his job? Okay. If the Secretary of the Treasury, who has been appointed by the president and confirmed by Congress, cannot look at the data within the Treasury, explain to me who under him has more authority than him. And the answer is absolutely nobody.
So
and Bennett, all these people have security clearances anyway, so screw it.
Trump has a trump card in all of this. This
We
organization,
classify everything and just say there is no classified data, so it doesn't matter.
well, they're getting ready to do a lot of that. They're getting ready to do a lot of that. But the trump card is this organization was created by executive order. It can be wiped out with a stroke of a pen.
Oh yeah, for USAID, absolutely.
Correct.
But for the Treasury Department, he said if the Secretary of the Treasury doesn't have the authority to look at the data, who the hell does? If not him, who?
So it's interesting that you would mention Holder, right? So contempt of Congress, nothing happened. And then Garland did the same thing. Nothing happened. Steve Bannon did it. And he was supposed to go to jail for 3 months. They held him in jail for 4 months. I mean, and they did that because the Biden admin basically told the DOJ and the FBI, go arrest him. And, it just a gong show of sorts. I don't know what else to say, but let's get into a few more specifics on these judges. So Judge Engelmeyer, who ruled that Trump's own Secretary of the Treasury is not allowed to access Treasury data, made his ruling at 1 a.m. while acting as an emergency substitute judge, while no member of Trump's legal team was present to make objections. And now this. An Obama-appointed judge ruled that President Trump must work with special counsel Hampton Dellinger, a Biden-appointed official, instead of his own chosen legal counsel. Yeah. Judge Jackson issued an order mandating Dellinger represent the president and barred Trump from appointing any other special counsel. This is not
ignore her.
This is not
just ignore her. She has no way to enforce this. Zero. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional. And she could say Trump has to divorce his wife. Does that mean he has to? No, he can just go up yours, and he should. And he needs to do it very loudly and very publicly and explain exactly why. Article 2 of the Constitution says this is my job. Get over it.
So a quick poll we're going to run here for the next little bit is if you think Jeff's sound effects are on point tonight, put a 1 in the chat where we are, and if not, put a 2. My bet is everybody's going to go for the 1s.
By sound effects, you mean the ice in my glass?
You get that kind of like remind me of Archie Bunker. You just didn't do it for long enough.
Oh.
So here's something interesting. You brought up James Comey. So it seems like Engelmeyer is also he's kind of sweet on pedos too. He has like I said earlier, a brother or some sort of relative of Judah Engelmeyer, who's a premier crisis manager who's handled the publicity for Claire Bronfman, Harry Weinstein, and Anna Sorokin. But it's interesting because there was an excerpt that came out in an article basically was this: Dear Judge Engelmeyer, because the defendant's immediate family will be permitted in the courtroom for UC's testimony, the transcript for the proceeding will be made available to the public shortly after the testimony is given. The attorneys in case in this were the AUSA's Daniel Wolf and Maureen Comey.
Again, we're back to Justin with the fishing line in the box. It's an extremely tangled web, right? All right. So another judge, Judge John McConnell, this time from Rhode Island, who ordered the Trump admin and DOGE to unfreeze billions of dollars in federal grants, has a daughter who currently works for the U.S. Department of Education as a senior policy advisor and was appointed by Joe Biden on February 14th, 2022, which is a conflict of interest since Trump and DOGE are planning to defund the Department of Education. John J. McConnell Jr., Chief Judge of the U.S. District Court in Rhode Island, ordered the Trump administration to immediately restore frozen funding and accused the Trump admin today of failing to comply with his prior order to unfreeze funding. The reason why Judge McConnell, a Democrat donor and activist, wants Trump to restore funding is because his daughter, Catherine McConnell, is currently employed by the same Department of Education. Blah, 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 blah. This is a conflict of interest, blah, 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 blah. Why do all these judges who hate President Trump have conflicts of interest with their Democrat daughters? I mean, immediately when she said that, Laura Loomer wrote this, my mind immediately went to Judge
Engeron.
Well, Engeron too. That's good point. I was thinking Merchan right away because of the $9 million that she collected from the Democrats last year in consulting stuff.
But they need to go. No, we're not going to.
Yeah, I agree. S2, did you have any intel on this judge by chance? There's so many judges getting involved. It's a party.
Dude, I've been so busy with the first one. You saw what I posted earlier today. Why do they keep making me do this?
How many hours of sleep did you get last night?
Well, it's not last night. It was the night before. I probably got 4.
Okay, that's twice as much as you need. You got to pick it up a little bit here, okay?
Okay.
The survival dispatch audience is counting on you to deliver on this stuff. All right. So next one up, Rep. Eli Crane. I'm drafting articles of impeachment for U.S. District Judge Paul Engelmeyer, S2's buddy. Partisan judges abusing their positions is a threat to democracy. The left has done irreparable harm to this country. President Trump and his team at DOGE are trying to fix it. You know, here's my take on all of this. As soon as any of these loudmouths, and it could be somebody at our level, like, just a common American, or somebody higher up, like a Maxine Waters, as soon as they start belly aching about this stuff, I think that we should just say to them, okay, so you earmarked $100 million for condoms in Gaza, but sent no condoms. Where'd the $100 million go? You sent countless money to other countries for transgender baloney, and maybe 2 or 3 things like that, and say, you think this is a good use of our taxpayers' money? Seriously, this is what you're defending. You're okay with this. Make them look like a bunch of idiots. Make them own it. Because I don't know how else to put it, but you have to be a complete and utter anti-American piece of garbage to support this crap.
So here's something on this piece with Eli Crane. These judges are in for a big surprise because I've got it on very good word that there is something coming down the pike for them. And when it comes, they won't be able to stop it.
Bring it. All right. Moving on from there. So the $59 million went to house the illegals in New York City posh hotels by the USAID. Could have gone to relief efforts in Western North Carolina. I would also say California. That's important. It's time for the Supreme Court to weigh in on the overreach of activist judges Obama, Biden placed in key states. How can the executive job do its branch when unconstitutional actions are taken against it? I hope Pam Bondi is drafting suits against these activists for interfering with the work of the presidency now. Federal judges can be impeached. Get with the program, basically. Jeff, the question for you on that. If Trump just steamrolls ahead, as we think he should, we feel he should, and does what he wants to do, what grounds would Pam Bondi have to charge them? Like, I'm wondering where that comes into play. I'm not an attorney.
She can charge them, for judicial misconduct if they make a ruling knowing full well it's going to be overturned, but they do it anyway.
Okay.
That's judicial misconduct. It's just like if I was a judge and I went to you and I said, you don't have a right to speak in your own defense at trial. And I made that ruling, and then you got convicted. And I know full well, okay, that's gross violation of several parts of the Constitution. Therefore, but I did it anyway. That's judicial misconduct. I knowingly and purposely violated the law to deny you your rights. And these people who are doing this are denying President Trump his right to execute, to do his duty that he was elected to do under the Constitution of the United States. To me, this is no different than if, New York City sent some cops down to DC and tried to arrest Trump for some bullshit charge in New York. You can't do that. And anyone who signs off on that should lose their fucking jobs. Excuse my French. They should lose their jobs.
No, it's understandable. So, next stupid question. Again, I'm not an attorney. So they get charged with judicial. What do you call it again? Judicial misconduct. I apologize. Can they remain on the bench, or if you get convicted of that, you're thrown off the bench?
If you're impeached, you're done. If you're a judge and you're impeached, you're gone.
Yeah, I know, but what about the misconduct? If they were to get a misconduct that stuck?
Well, you would, because impeaching someone is not really a criminal thing. Just like you impeach the president of the United States,
right?
You're not sentencing him to jail if he's convicted. You're just saying he's removed from office, and it's the same thing with these ass clowns. They won't necessarily. Now, somebody, the aggrieved party, could file charges, and then you'd have to go through a violation of civil rights kind of thing.
Okay.
But the primary thing with an impeachment is you are only removing them from office. If you want to put them in jail, that's a separate criminal case, which has to be filed by a jurisdiction. You have to have an aggrieved party, someone was standing, blah blah blah. I can't, if someone, impeached Joe Biden and it affected me, I couldn't say, oh, he needs to go to jail now. Well, there has to be a separate case brought for that.
Gotcha.
The other problem with impeachment is you still have to go through a trial in the Senate with this, and you're going to have to get a 2/3 vote on that. And
which is going to be hard. You're not going to get.
No, but there is something else, and I'll use 2 words to describe what's coming down the pike. It's called take care.
Yes.
Go ahead. Expand on that, Esther.
I can't right this minute. I was told to keep it quiet as much as possible.
You didn't do very good.
Yes, I did.
But the other thing too is if a court in the Southern District of New York, Congress can erase it. They just like they created it, they can uncreate it.
Right.
And that does not require a 2/3 vote.
So the next post I've got up here doesn't offer anything new information wise, so I'm not going to read the whole thing except for the final sentence is the reason I put this up here. This isn't what we voted for. So the polls are skewed, and yet they're still showing overwhelming support amongst Americans for what Donald Trump is doing, regardless of party affiliation, et cetera, et cetera. We didn't vote for this stuff. The Democrats are digging themselves an even deeper hole. The RINOs are digging themselves an even deeper hole. And I mean, it's basically exposing all of the rats, if nothing else. All right.
Yeah,
so
you need to expose their money that they're making off of the USAID and all this bullshit.
So good point made here. Biden ignored the U.S. Supreme Court, but we are supposed to submit to liberal activist judges. So he's referring to the forgiving student loans. And that's a great point. It's rules, for thee, but not for me sort of thing. All right. Next one up. DC judge. This is just getting into the realm of ridiculousness, by the way. DC judge orders Trump to restore web pages related to sex change operations and gender ideology on the HHS, CDC, and FDA websites. Presumably, new presidents are not allowed to delete web pages posted by former presidents.
Horse shit.
Yeah. That's when you go, no.
These guys can just get bent. Seriously.
Well, they have no way to enforce this, because to enforce it, they have to go through the Department of Justice. And if the Department of Justice goes pass, they have no options. They're done.
Well, like I said,
it's going to go pass.
For sure. It's entering the realm of ridiculousness. And I personally believe what you said, Jeff, is that they know it won't hold up all the way to SCOTUS. It's a stalling tactic, but it also consumes resources and bandwidth.
Yeah.
So
that's why you ignore it. Don't let it.
All right. So next one up here. I mean, and this really is unreal, right? This lady goes against Donald Trump, pays out $59 million from FEMA, which, by the way, the Biden admin said not a penny of FEMA money went towards illegals. Total lie, total bullshit. And yet, here's what we've left our people with in North Carolina. Thank God Trump's back in office, because if he wasn't, who knows when Western North Carolina and East Tennessee would be rebuilt. 56 seconds. If the writing is too small for you to see because you're on a phone, it says when hundreds of people were waiting for propane in Western North Carolina so they didn't freeze to death, we were sending $59 million to luxury hotels in New York City for illegal immigrants.
So begin me.
And I say that as a guy who heats his house with propane. Freak out of late.
Say again, Jeff?
I said I heat my house with propane, and I freak out if the truck is like 2 days late.
Right. And the reason I played that entire video is because all of those people are waiting for propane. Yeah. And temperatures are pretty brutal in West North Carolina right now.
Yeah, and I'm in Arizona. It ain't that brutal. I can light a fire and I'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. So this is the girl, Mary Comans, FEMA's chief financial officer, who illegally transferred the $59 million. So she has been fired. And beyond that, Trump has asked for an investigation for criminal charges. So S2, we both could be wrong. This may be the first public official who goes down at the hands of Trump's administration. I know it's not, the immigration stuff, but
to be clear, we said mayors. So
no, we said public figure, but that's okay. Well, we can start.
It's going to be hard to convict her of a felony because it's in violation of an executive order, which is not a law. It is an administrative thing. She can be shit canned and lose her pension, but I don't see her unless she personally profited and you charge her with some sort of fraud or theft. No, she won't. I don't see them.
They're going to go make me dig on her too.
Hold on a second. So let's just say there was never any policy on this, okay? And so take that out of the equation. And a public official with access to that kind of money unilaterally decided that they were going to send $50 million to a hotel. that's got to be illegal. It has to be.
Thing is, though, it would have been legal the week before or 2 weeks before. It is not. I'm saying it's not. She didn't personally profit from it, at least as far as I know. It's almost like I approved a payment that they said I shouldn't approve. Yeah, you can lose your job over it, and you probably will. And the people who receive the money, they'll have to claw it back. But she didn't steal it for her own personal use. She didn't steal it unless she's got a tie to the people receiving it. It's not. It's a. What I'm trying to. It's like an administrative problem. It's not theft because she didn't steal it for herself. She didn't give it to her friends. She didn't give it to a terrorist organization. Under any other circumstance, the $59 million going to support, illegal aliens in New York a month ago would have been 100% legal. So
I believe
law passed in the interim.
I believe
She
22
violated an executive order. She should be fired for it.
I believe 22 million of that 59 million went to a hotel that's owned by the government of Pakistan.
That doesn't matter.
It would be interesting to see how much of that money gets flipped back into somebody's pocket.
Maybe, in which case then you've got a fraud going on. But it doesn't matter who owns a hotel. If the hotel is providing a service that they have contracted with the U.S. government for, whether it's a good contract or a bad contract, they have a contract and they paid them for it. It's, it could be, she violated the executive order, should be fired. It is not criminal. In my opinion, I'm not an attorney.
During the press conference this afternoon, Elon said he felt it was criminal, and Trump said he was recommending it to the DOJ to look into it for criminal charges.
If they can find something to hang on her, go for it. But
we'll see. All right. Whistleblower Dr. Mark Moyer explains how toxic it was when he was at USAID in the first term, meaning Donald Trump's first term. Highlights include being investigated when he brought some of the fraud up the chain of command, not being able to tell the president what was happening because he was thwarted at every turn by federal bureaucrats hell-bent on maintaining the status quo. Looks like President Trump learned his lesson this time around, and again, Democrats only have themselves to blame for that. Thank God it all got uncovered. It's a 4-minute video. I'm not going to play the video. If you want to see the video, go to patreon.com/survivaldispatch. Sign up for an insider account. Tonight's brief is for paying members only. About 50% of the time we give them away for free. The brief has everything in it that we cover. So usually we leave all the memes for chapter 3, but I had to throw this one in because I felt like it was apropos. I did the math and everything is stupid. 100% of what these people are doing. All right. And next one up, new DOGE target. Get this, India. I wish John was on with us tonight. The Pritzker family has 64 NGOs taking millions upon millions of taxpayer money. So I'm going to play a little bit of this one. So Pritzker, of course, is the governor, the billionaire governor of Illinois, who was essentially kicked out of the family business because he was such a screw up, who now runs the state of Illinois, 64 NGOs.
Gee, I wonder if Mr. Blagojevich had anything to do with this information leaking out.
Gee,
Blagojevich, yeah. He got pardoned. He can talk now all he wants.
He sure can. All right, I'm going to play a little bit of this.
The Pritzker family, very prominent political family, apparently has 64 NGOs. Again, this is just one single NGO, and you're seeing a lot of people working for no compensation. They're just a trustee of some sort. Everybody else is being paid upwards of $250,000. Senior VP for policy research, $400,000 a year being paid for that. Strategy affairs being paid $330,000 a year. VP, $300,000 a year. And again, they've got 64 of these. This is all paid for by your tax dollars, by the way. That's all your money. So you get these families in government. It's almost just like a thief who figured out that the bank vault door got left open. And they really are just, every NGO is another bag for cash. And they just jam as much cash into one bag as possible, zip it up, throw it away, file a new LLC. We're the clean water people, whatever. Fine. Just shove the money in the bag, hand it off to your friends. Do they achieve anything? No, not really. Do they build anything? Certainly not. No, absolutely not at all. Do they make anything better for anybody? Not tangibly, no. Certainly for the people working for them, they're such amazing philanthropists.
All right, so we'll move on to the next one from there. Impeachment of Obama appointed judges underway and Trump to end the FEMA agency. I'm just going to play the first half that's on point with the judges. I'm not going to get into the FEMA stuff in this chapter any more than we have already.
Hey, folks, how are you? Jeremy Harrell here, LFA TV, with a quick afternoon update. Earlier today on my show, we talked about all of these Obama-era appointed judges thinking that they can go to war with President Trump and stop the leader of the executive party from doing his job and leading the executive party. So you got all these judges who are basically doing the bidding of these dirty, corrupt Democrats who are filing lawsuits against President Trump for things like stopping the sending of Venezuelan violent gang members to Guantanamo Bay as part of their deportation, stopping all payments to the NIH after we found out that the USAID was funding gain-of-function research, which led to COVID and lockdowns and vaccines and all of that. Yeah, they stopped those things. They put a temporary injunction on President Trump's executive orders to cut back regulation, stop boys from murdering girls in girls' sports and other things. And Eli Crane just introduced and drafted legislation to impeach these corrupt judges. This is how we get rid of them. We've got the House. We've got the Senate. Let's impeach these federal judges. Let's get these judges who are not acting off of, ruling by the basis of the Constitution and are acting in their own capacity or by their own agenda. Let's impeach them also.
All right, so I'm going to stop that there. Jeff, I'm going to come back to you here. So considering that you need a 2/3 vote in the Senate to impeach them, no Democrats and the RINOs, especially the egregious ones like Murkowski and McConnell, they're not going to vote for impeachment. So I'm not going to hold my breath waiting for judges to be impeached. Is there any other mechanism that we have to get these clowns off the bench, or do we just say, screw it, we're just going to disregard you and you can issue stuff all you want, but we're not going to pay attention to it?
Well, the only other one would be to eliminate, like the Third District Court of Appeals or something like that, which I don't think we want to do because they do legitimate work.
Right.
But I think with these lower courts, if push comes to shove, you just ignore them. And because they have a limited jurisdiction, and they'll, like the guy from Rhode Island, okay, he's got a very limited district, but then he makes this ruling and says it applies all the way across the United States. That would be like a justice of the peace in, Mammoth, Arizona, passing some ruling and say, okay, now it applies across the United States. Yeah, actually, no, it doesn't. And people just, they say, okay, the judge ruled it must be true. No, you don't have to accept it. You can go, no, that's BS. And we're not going to apply that here. This is a court of appeals that has a geographic region that it's responsible for. Like the Ninth Circuit is the Western United States. I think the Fifth is the Southern United States, Louisiana and all this. Their rulings don't go beyond that. But somehow some district judge in Rhode Island, his ruling goes all the way across the United States. Bullshit. You just go, he doesn't have the authority to say that. We don't accept it. We're moving on. And if he wants to appeal it up to the Supreme Court, knock yourself out. We're not going to listen to it. And they need, just like Biden, when the courts would say, he did it to the Supreme Court when they said, you cannot forgive student loans like that. That is an appropriation. It's billions of dollars. You can't do it. And he goes, oh, okay. And then he turn around a week later and do it again. And just pass a new one. But so if he can ignore it, If they didn't ignore the Supreme Court, we can certainly ignore some local district court.
But
Okay,
Jeff, he was a well-meaning old man.
so
Well,
here's
I'm a
the deal.
well-meaning old man too. So what?
All of these things that we've highlighted, not one of those judges, there's one thing in common that they all have besides being appointed by Biden. Not one of them quoted any section of law
Right.
or the Constitution that was being violated.
Yeah.
So I don't think that we're going to get impeachments. I don't see it happening. But what is the possibility of the Trump admin petitioning SCOTUS to ask for a ruling that states, number one, we are the third branch on parallel with the executive, lower courts are not, and lower courts cannot force the executive to do anything unless they're breaking the law.
Well, that's exactly what they should do, but it's going to take time to work through the process because you have to go from a district court to an appeals court and then on up. But I think what they need to do in the interim is just ignore them. They throw out these temporary restraining orders thinking, okay, that'll solve it. Well, okay, what happens if you ignore the temporary restraining order? Well, then there has to be another order and it has to go up the chain. If they can do it, why can't we? I think we should just say, under our interpretation of the Constitution, which is the correct one, by the way, the president is in charge of the executive branch of government. Therefore, the judiciary branch, which is a separate but co-equal branch, does not have the authority to tell the president what he's doing is wrong unless he is breaking a definable law.
Well, they're not equal. Just SCOTUS is.
Well, SCOTUS, but judiciary. But my point is, if you're not citing a specific law, I mean, if they say, well, people are going to be damaged, okay, that's a tort. That's civil law. That's not criminal law.
Yep.
And they can say, okay, they can sue us later. But right now, we're going to go ahead. And that's what they need to do.
I totally agree. This is a short video on the protests in D.C. today. Not going to play it. Just wanted to put it up to show the massive crowd that they have. Somebody counted them. I can't remember what it was, but it was many dozens. It was kind of like a Trump rally, just different.
I've had Super Bowl parties bigger than that.
Right.
You're all fired.
Just in, 4 FEMA employees to be fired today over egregious New York City hotel payment. Justice is coming.
Good.
Fox News has confirmed that the Department of Homeland Security issued a statement regarding the $50 million FEMA allocated last week to house illegal aliens in New York City. There will be firings at FEMA. The DHS memo to Fox stated 4 employees being fired today for circumventing leadership and unilaterally making the egregious payment for hotels for migrants in New York City. So no sense of playing that video either, but I am going to play the video from this shithead. So this is in 2023. Yeah, they didn't give the exact date, but the Biden administration should ignore the court. AOC 2023. Behold the so-called party of integrity, a real den of hypocrites if I've ever seen one. Listen, this is tough. We're going to try to get through the whole minute and 4 seconds of her squealing, but I can't promise you we'll make it all the way.
There has been thought, I believe, given to this. Senator Ron Wyden has already issued statements, for example, advising what we should do in a situation like this, which I concur, which is that I believe that the Biden administration should ignore this ruling. I think that the courts have the legitimacy and they rely on the legitimacy of their rulings. And what they are currently doing is engaged in an unprecedented and dramatic erosion of the legitimacy of the courts. It is the justices themselves, through the deeply partisan and unfounded nature of these rulings, that are undermining their own enforcement.
So you're saying the Biden administration should ignore this court, but what does that look like? What does that actually mean?
I think the interesting thing when it comes to a ruling is that it relies on enforcement. And
the first intelligent thing I have ever heard her say, Jeff.
The only
Hey, you know what? There was one case of where Mayorkas didn't lie when he was on the stand.
What?
They were asking if FEMA had money, and he said, "Yeah, we have money."
Huh, that's true. We gave it to them.
Right.
Our money, but they had it.
6 more seconds.
It is up to the Biden administration to choose whether or not to enforce such a ruling.
But is
Yeah. She's absolutely right there, because the courts can make all the decisions they want, but they have no method, no means of actually enforcing it. They don't have cops.
Right on. All right. So this is the last one in the first chapter. We try to wrap it up top of the hour, and we're
I got to roll after this chapter.
And this is it. It's the last one. So for the first chapter, Trump to sign executive order putting DOGE in charge of federal downsizing. Trump will sign an executive order today directing all federal agencies to work with DOGE to cut staff, limit hiring, and streamline operations. The move is expected to significantly shrink the federal workforce as DOGE leads the charge to eliminate waste, reduce bureaucracy, and overhaul government efficiency. S2 first, then you, Jeff, and you get the final word before you leave for dinner.
There's always coding.
Learn the code. Well, he's absolutely right. But in the bigger picture of things, okay, if you look at the United States government as a corporation, as the largest corporation on planet Earth, and Trump is the CEO and president, it is his job to run the company. And it is his job to make decisions that he thinks will improve the functioning of the company and increase the bottom line, which in our case has been negative for God knows how long. And like any other company, if the shareholders, being the American people, don't like what he's doing, they can fire him. Next time he runs for office, or whoever he wants to run for office after him, you fire him. If the majority of the country doesn't like what he did, they can elect a Democrat president next time. That's the way democracy works. But you can't have a guy who was elected by the majority of the country, won the electoral vote in a landslide, and is doing exactly what he said he was going to do. You can't stop him from doing that by going through all this bullshit with the courts. It's like, this is what we elected him to do. Let him do it. It's just like Milei down in Argentina. Damn it, let's see what happens. We elected Biden. We saw what happened. It was a shit show. So let's do the opposite and see what happens. If it improves everything, great. Everybody wins. And if it screws everything up, then you can elect somebody else afterwards.
I disagree. We did not elect Joe Biden.
Well, okay, we did not. Joe Biden took charge. But the point is, we had a Democrat administration. They fucked it up. Now we've got a Republican administration, but not like the old ones, but one that's really doing stuff. Let them do it.
You have a mega.
If you don't like it, well, you can undo it later.
Yeah.
I got a solution for all of this. Take all of these people in these agencies and send them down to the border and give them shovels and make them build the wall.
Yeah, well, anyone authorized to carry a gun, like all those 87,000 IRS agents, say, you're a federal law enforcement officer. You happen to work for IRS, but you work for the executive branch of the United States. Guess what? You've just been transferred to Customs and Border Protection. And if you don't want to accept that transfer, okay, it's been nice knowing you. See you later. Bye.
Talk about sending. Talk about
be in the military and say, I don't want to go to South Korea. Well, tough shit. You're going anyway.
Talk about sending the sheep to a slaughter. Did you see the training classes of those IRS?
Yes, I did. You can put them in administrative roles.
They had no idea what they were doing. They should have never been given firearms. It was a complete and utter gong show.
They can process all the illegals out of the country.
There you go. Yeah, they can file the forms and put them on a plane.
Take fingerprints.
Yeah.
All right. So that wraps it up for chapter 1. Appreciate your time, Jeff. We got a short message from Sawyer Products, and S2 and I will be back with chapter 2 in just a second.
The Sawyer Mini is the most versatile personal filtration system available. It's a perfect solution for backpacking, hiking, hunting, fishing, scouting, international travel, and emergency preparedness. At a mere 2 ounces, the Mini fits in the palm of your hand and can filter up to 100,000 gallons of water from any freshwater lake, river, or stream. The Sawyer Mini has a 0.1 micron absolute pore size. It was tested to 10 million parts of bacteria and 1 million parts of protozoa without a single breakthrough. This is the highest level filters can be tested to, so we're confident these are the highest rates of filtration available.
All right, first story up. Tom Homan says DOJ has seemed to identify those who leaked the details of ICE raids, and they originated from the FBI. Homan says they will lose their job, their pension, and they're going to go to jail. 1 minute, 15 seconds. This is absolutely glorious. These people, anti-American pieces of crap that are in our bureaucracy that think they can do whatever they want, they're seriously going to FAFO here in the second term of Trump. Tom Homan's not joking, and can't wait to see the hammer drop on these clowns. These FBI people who leaked, they went to Aragua. They went to their contacts at TDA and said, oh, by the way, ICE is coming to raid you today. They put those ICE agents in grievous danger. They deserve to go to prison, for a very, very long time. 1 minute, 15 seconds.
Where are these leaks coming from?
Well, look, we think it's coming from inside. And we know the first leak of Aurora is under current investigation. We think we identified that person under investigation right now. The California leak, Secretary Noem, she's correct. Some of the information we're receiving tends to lead toward the FBI. But I talked to the Deputy Attorney General all this weekend. They've opened up a criminal investigation, and they have promised that not only this person lose their job and lose their pension, they're going to go to jail. They're going to criminally prosecute. So we're all over it. We got the DHS IG investigating the first one. Have a pretty good idea what happened. Can't share a lot because it's under investigation, but the IG's opened up a criminal investigation on the second one. We're sending a strong message. It's just not, giving the bad guys a heads up so they can escape apprehension. Right? We're arresting, giving, the Venezuela gang a heads up so we can't arrest them. You're putting officers' lives at risk. It's only a matter of time if we walk into a place where there's going to be a bad guy doesn't care. He's going to be sitting and wait for the officers to show up and ambush him. This is not a game. So DHS and DOJ are connected at hip to hold these people responsible in a criminal fashion.
As to thoughts on what kind of scumbag at the FBI would go to TDA and leak this kind of information?
The same ones that would later on use them for informing on Americans. I think the first one, if I recall, I had heard something kind of like a little whiff of air that said that it came from a ride-along. And Homan said, yeah, the ride-alongs are ending. So I think it happened that the first one happened that way, but the FBI one, yeah, it's like I said, these are the same. The FBI, everybody has to remember, they have strayed so far from what their mission is. They no longer solve crimes. They become an intelligence organization. They collect people. They don't solve crimes. They manage them. They basically create the conditions and then hand over the paperwork to whoever wants to arrest them and says, okay, we created your evidence. Now you go paint your narrative.
Yeah. So just insanity. Next one up here is from the Elon Trump press conference today. There is a possibility this is a repeat of one we played already. If so, I'll skip to the next one.
Steve, I'd like you to say a couple of words about it.
No, it's absolutely not. This is not a repeat. This is glorious.
Yes, well, as you know, Mr. President, since you issued your day one executive orders, border crossings are down approximately 95%. You talk to agents on the line, in their entire careers, they've never seen crossing days as low as what they're experiencing right now. The cartels, in fact, are enormously frustrated because they've never seen a clampdown like this before in American history. There are people who were working at Border Patrol back when it was INS in the 80s and 90s. They've never seen a day like this. That's because you've mobilized the 10th Mounted Division, the Marines, the entire U.S. military. They're erecting physical miles of barrier, temporary and ultimately permanent, every single day. You have all of your border agents pushed to the front line. They're not doing the humanitarian processing, quote unquote, that Biden was doing. They're doing law enforcement and national security. They're interdicting weapons and drugs. They're interdicting violent, high threat criminals. And the U.S. military is repatriating illegal immigrants at a pace and a skill that has never occurred before in American history. And those who are committing human trafficking and child trafficking are being prosecuted for felony offenses, and they'll be doing hard time in jail. There's never been a lockdown like what you have implemented through your orders and visions since you took the oath of office.
So there's a lot of good news there. I don't know if y'all caught it. There was another press conference yesterday with Tom Homan where he says he's very proud of the work that ICE is doing right now, but they're understaffed and he wants to see the numbers go way, way up. They're not as high as what he would like them to see. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, they barely scratched the surface on this one, right? Depending on whose numbers you want to believe, somewhere between, say, 30 and 50 million illegal invaders in the country. And as far as the largest deportation in American history, that was Ike. And you can look it up as the early 1950s, and it was called Operation Wetback. I did not make that name up. You can go verify it. And he deported 1.2 million Mexicans. So we've got a long ways to go just to catch up to what Ike did, and an even longer way, you know, to purge this from our country, costing us massive amounts of tax dollars. The GAO said 2 years ago that $451 billion a year was being spent by the federal government to look after illegals. If the GAO says it's $451 billion at the federal level, it's probably double that. That does not include what's being spent at the state and the county level on top of that. We're talking trillions of dollars pissed away on people who have no right to be in this country while we treat our own citizens like shit. S2, do you want to add to that at all before we move on?
No, I watched this the other day. Or last night, I think it was actually.
Yeah, good news. Okay, so CNN, here you go. CNN is forced to admit 70% of Americans say Trump is doing exactly what he promised, and his approval ratings are at an all-time high. I mean, all of these Democrats going against this, the RINOs going against this, the media going against this, the judges going against this. They don't realize they are just digging themselves a deeper and deeper hole, to the point where it's not just that Americans don't like these people, but Americans are finally getting to the point where they hate these people. 1 minute, 4 seconds.
You know, I think one of the things that's so important for politicians is for folks to believe what they're saying and that they're keeping their campaign promises. So I think this gives you a pretty gosh darn good idea of what may be going on. Trump's doing what he promised to do. You go back to April of 2017, it was just 46% of all Americans who said that Trump was doing what he promised to do. Compare that now to February of 2025. You know, there was a good show that was on during the 1990s called A Different World. That is what's going on right now. We're living in a different world. 70% of Americans say Trump is doing what he promised to do. Again, compare that to April of 2017, when it's just 46%, when Americans are 24 points more likely to say that you're doing what you promised to do. It's no wonder that your net approval rating is much more likely to be on the positive side of the ledger than on the negative side. And so far, what we're seeing, again, is Americans, 21 days so far versus just 11 days during his entire first term, that Trump has a positive net approval rating.
So I don't know if you want to take a swing at that one, but that in itself right there is a good indicator of how out of touch the RINOs, the Democrats, and all these clowns are. Feel free to take a swing at it, Dustin.
The only thing that I can say about it is that he could be doing so much more if he wasn't having to constantly push back against these assholes.
Right, and that's what I mentioned earlier, that it consumes bandwidth and resources, right? So,
yeah,
which is absolutely, I mean, it's unforgivable if you ask me. But then again, what's it matter what Chris Evans thinks?
Or me.
Yeah. So give me 2 seconds here. I think I got a duplicate. I do, and I do not want to play this one this early. So give me a second. Go with this one instead. All right. JD Vance at the AI Action Summit in Paris. We've also watched as hostile foreign adversaries have weaponized AI software to rewrite history, surveil users, and censor speech. I want to be clear, this administration will block such efforts, full stop. I would encourage everybody to watch the reactions of the people in the audience, all these government officials from other countries. It's glorious. There's some extended footage of this that I watched, and I didn't matter what JD Vance said because I knew I was going to agree with it, but I watched the crowd's reaction, got a good laugh out of it. 1 minute, 35 seconds.
Now, we've also watched as hostile foreign adversaries have weaponized AI software to rewrite history, surveil users, and censor speech. This is hardly new, of course. As they do with other tech, some authoritarian regimes have stolen and used AI to strengthen their military, intelligence, and surveillance capabilities, capture foreign data, and create propaganda to undermine other nations' national security. I want to be clear. This administration will block such efforts, full stop. We will safeguard American AI and chip technologies from theft and misuse, work with our allies and partners to strengthen and extend these protections, and close pathways to adversaries attaining AI capabilities that threaten all of our people. And I would also remind our international friends here today that partnering with such regimes, it never pays off in the long term. From CCTV to 5G.
So there's the head of the European Union right there, by the way. She's like a first-class bitch. I think she's got a steel rod shoved up her ass all the way to her brain. She is just brutal.
She's a douche consumer.
Yeah, she absolutely hates America. She hates JD Vance, hates Donald Trump, and it's a beautiful thing. She was in a room with Donald Trump a while ago, and I mean, the sour look on her face was just unreal.
Equipment, we're all familiar with cheap tech in the marketplace that's been heavily subsidized and exported by authoritarian regimes. But as I know, and I think some of us in this room have learned from experience, partnering with them means chaining your nation to an authoritarian master that seeks to infiltrate, dig in, and seize your information infrastructure.
I gotta stop on that.
What did he just say?
I can't help it. I mean, her brain is just being fried right now.
Should a deal seem too good to be true, just remember the old adage that we learned in Silicon Valley. If you aren't paying for the product, you are the product. Now, we've also...
Very well said. You want to comment on that, S2 at all?
No, the look on her face pretty much says it all.
It's all of these technocrats in Europe. They just despise us, and they know that there's a Trump wave coming worldwide. You've got populist leaders around the country signing up for this. So actually, let me show this one first from Pete Hegseth this morning. So he left on a plane last night, landed in Europe. I think he was Germany first, and then he went to maybe Belgium. Got 2 hours sleep, and he's out there doing PT with some special forces guys. Here he is right here. This dude here, there's already some pretty funny memes coming out on this guy here. And I have one of them queued up towards the end, but this is 2 hours sleep, traveling halfway around the world, training with our guys. I mean, can't imagine seeing any of the former ones like Lloyd Austin. Can you imagine General Milley out there? His lipstick could be melting off his face, for crying out loud. And here's just a quick 19-second clip after they went for their run. So I can't recall who it was, so I want to give them credit, but I just don't remember who did this. Just as we went live, somebody put this in the Signal chat, S2, and I'm going to play it because it jives with this stuff with Hegseth. So the Pentagon just released this video, America's enemies should be terrified. Oh, fuck. I didn't realize. AC/DC. This video will get completely annihilated off of YouTube for that. There's no appeals.
Just mute the sound.
Yeah, I'm just saying. There's the second that they heard that, I'm gonna have to go back and clip this out of this live one. It's brutal. We have a lot of fun with YouTube. Get a strike 2 days ago for an airsoft rifle, and AC/DC is the one thing you cannot play. There's others as well, but AC/DC in particular is really, really bad. So dang it. That's why I should always play it ahead of time before I freaking put it on air. Do you want to describe what we're looking at, S2?
I believe you're looking at F-22 Raptors. I could be wrong.
No, they're F-22 Raptors, which is the deadliest 5th generation fighter.
I want to see them. I want to see them take off in formation. That's what I want to see.
The way the thrusts work on the F-22 is absolutely amazing. They can literally go straight up like this and turn at a 60-degree angle, would stall any other plane. I mean, literally the bad guy could be on their ass, which they wouldn't be because it's first seen, first shot, you know, and the other guy never sees it coming. But if they were in a dogfight and they go vertical, they can, like I say, they can flip over and come straight back down and shoot the bad guys. It's an amazing aircraft, best aircraft ever made. All right, moving on from there. The FBI did this to a January 6th defendant's baby, shut the whole agency down and shatter it into a million pieces. I mean, we try to save the profanity for chapter 3. Some nights like tonight, we don't do as good of a job, but seriously, what the fuck? Like so let me just back up in history a little bit. So Keith Graves, personal friend of mine, and former Bay Area SWAT team leader, drug and gang interdiction specialist. His channel is Christian Warrior Training. When he retired 4 years ago and moved to Idaho, he's got so much knowledge. He started training law enforcement around the country, including a lot of feds. And he stopped doing it recently because every time he would go and teach something at the federal level, some snowflake would go and complain and say that he misgendered somebody, or he said something that's not politically correct. So he said, fuck it, I'm not doing it anymore. And, you know, he's got some friends and allies, let's say, in the FBI, but he said the problem with the FBI is nobody now, as far as new hires are concerned, it's been going on for quite a while, has any law enforcement experience whatsoever. So these are college kids who, you know, study gender and crime and all kinds of stuff like that, but have no real world experience. And then they put a gun in their hand and deploy them like this.
The irony of this is a woman.
Yep.
This is a woman pointing a firearm at a baby.
Yeah. I mean,
and just disgusting.
Just beyond. How do we get to this point, right? Like, how do we fall this far? It's unbelievable.
Was she expecting for the baby to get up with a Tommy gun or something?
Yeah. Well, you know, our friends at Car Arms own Tommy gun. I'll have to ask.
I guess
without a 4473.
I guess we go back to the old Bugs Bunny cartoons. Maybe that's what they're used to. Maybe that was their training video.
Yeah. All right. So next up, President Trump is delivering huge wins. Illegal alien encounters down to 87%. The 1 minute video, you know what? She's much more eloquent and articulate than I am. We'll let Levitt say it in her own words.
And Mike
Welcome to the MAGA Minute. It's been a huge week here at the White House, and let's go over the wins President Trump delivered on behalf of you, the American people. On immigration, illegal migrant encounters between the ports of entry are down nearly 87%. On the economy, President Trump laid out a plan to establish a sovereign wealth fund to better invest the more than $5 trillion in assets held by the United States. He also proposed tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico and China, and those tariffs were swiftly paused after our allies agreed to step up and address these issues. We are streamlining USAID into the State Department. President Trump signed a historic executive order to ban men in women's sport. Lastly, President Trump is already making our military strong again. Army recruitment in the month of December, with the anticipation of President Trump's return to the Oval Office, hit a 15-year high. We'll see you for next week's MAGA Minute.
Not bad at all. It's a bunch of good news there. So Elon rebrands the phrase sleeping on the job and turns it into a positive. The billionaire Doge sage is sleeping on the floor at Doge headquarters in DC, which is close to the White House. Elon used to sleep on the factory floor at Tesla during busy periods. With President Trump and Elon, we are witnessing a miraculous phenomena in American history, the likes never to be seen again, and certainly never with any Democrat holding office. I mean, that impressive work ethic for sure, but I like that sleeping bag. That's pretty cool.
You know what Trump's schedule is? Trump's day begins at 6 a.m. and ends at midnight every night.
Yep.
And how do we know that? Because Trump doesn't have anybody doing his tweets for him. He does all of those all by himself. So he's up at like midnight doing tweets.
So Don Jr., I spoke to him in Dallas a few years ago at a thing I was at, and he said that it's not unusual for his father to run on 3 or 4 hours sleep. He said it blows him away as well. He said, I've never seen anybody like it. The man doesn't need sleep. I mean, it's incredible. So either way, I want that sleeping bag. So if anybody wants to send Chris Evan a belated birthday gift,
a Doge sleeping bag.
A Doge sleeping bag. Yeah, I love it. It's awesome. Okay. All right. So next one here. So I told you there was this shithead on X wanted to argue with me a couple weeks ago on how the records showed that we only intercepted 43 pounds of fentanyl from Canada. Well, number one, that would be 10 million lethal doses. If it was, there's two ways to make fentanyl. There's a very rudimentary way that the cartels use. There's a very sophisticated way that the labs make it. That particular fentanyl was made in Canada, sophisticated lab. It was more like 15 million lethal doses, not 10 million. But that is barely scratches the surface. Here's the reality of how bad the fentanyl problem is coming in from the northern border, from high-grade labs that is way more potent than the stuff coming across our southern border. You know, I said to the guy who was arguing with me, I said, look, the Biden admin has underreported all crime, number one. Number two, 10 million lethal doses. Number three, this is like rats. You see a rat, there's 100 more that you don't see. And it's a big problem. And the guy, he could just fixated on 43 pounds. He couldn't get off it. Well, here's your explanation with a little bit more evidence behind it.
One of the things that we have pointed to a lot over the past couple of weeks when responding to the president is the amount of fentanyl that crosses from Canada to the U.S., which is, as you know, very small. It was 43 pounds was seized at that border. But I understand you think that that is not sort of something that we should be focusing on, the fact that it's a small amount, particularly compared to Mexico. Give me your thoughts.
Well, several months ago, you had the biggest lab in the history of the world, taken over by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Vancouver. I mean, we'd never even seen anything like this. It made Breaking Bad look like, minor league. Okay, so that, and definitely where there was Chinese organized crime, possibly Iran as well. The facts have not been released by your government. It's so sort of astonishing that they haven't provided more information publicly, but I think they know they're sitting on a big scandal here. The fact that this thing emerged and it's tied into these biker gangs who've been hired to go down to the United States in some cases and assassinate people like, my former boss, Secretary Mike Pompeo, President Trump, and others. This is another whole level of scandal involving it. But the key thing to focus on is that someone was making over 100 million doses of deadly fentanyl in a lab that you didn't know about right under your nose. Now, how many other labs do you think you have going? And, let me put folks one last thing. There's very little border enforcement. So 42 kilograms, it's a nonsensical number. We don't have, most of the drugs are going from Mexico to Canada and then being brought south into the Northwest United States on ships. You have almost no port enforcement with police. So we don't have no idea, except from our sources, what's going on. And we hear some bad things.
I will say, I mean, they did find the super lab. I mean, I take your point. It was under their nose, but there was police work done in order to find it, uncover it, and charge the people responsible. So that is a positive piece. I take your point, though, that there could be more. And so tell me what more you think needs to be done to deal with some of the things you're talking about, as well as the czar. They've increased surveillance at the border. They are going to crack down on Mexican cartels. I talked to the RCMP commissioner about that, and there is more shared intelligence that's going to happen between Canada and the U.S. What else would be helpful in this instance then?
Let me first stress the RCMP is an excellent organization. Okay, you've got very good police in your country. Yeah. Okay, you got great CSIS, your intelligence organization is first rate as well. Your problem is your laws. It's the Stinchcomb law, which I'm not, like the world's expert on, but basically every time we try to go up on a phone number in Canada, almost all the money laundering networks tied to China, which is about 90% of all money laundering in the United States, is tied to Canada. Okay.
So I'm going to stop that there. S2, what are your thoughts on how big the problem really is at the northern border? Because it's been way underplayed. And
well, he's spot on. I mean, there's no, they have, it's been like that way for years. They've had almost little to no border security up there. You could go across, what is that, Lake Michigan from Canada in a boat. I mean, how the hell do they think they used to bootleg whiskey from Canada into the United States, or molasses, pardon me? How do you think they used to get it here? It's through Canada.
So it wouldn't be Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan is Michigan on one side and Illinois on the other. It's the only Great Lake that's only in America. But it's really easy for them to come across Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, and then where Kid Rock is from, Lake St. Clair, which is just north of Detroit. It was super easy to come across there. It's not a Great Lake; it's a small lake.
And it's not like you're hauling barrels of molasses across there. You're hauling a very compact product that could be hidden in the hull of a boat with no problem.
100%.
So, this person in Canada, I don't know who she is, but basically she's like saying, "Yeah, we suck. How do I say it without saying it?"
Yeah. So the other part to it, of course, is where both sides of the Great Lakes. Longest undefended border in the world. I mean, you can literally walk across the border from Canada into the U.S. in many locations, so much so that in the Northeast, you have some really, old communities, like towns that are 300 plus years old. And one side of Main Street is in New Hampshire or Vermont. The other side is in Quebec, Eastern Townships in Quebec. It's a tough border. It's a tougher border than Mexico is.
Well, early on when this was going on, I was mapping out problem areas where it looked like illegals were being transported up from the southern border, but what it turned out to be was that they were the areas that I was mapping were in the northern border states. And I'm like, wait a minute, they're dropping these people in strategic areas in New York. They were dropping them in Rochester and all of those other little towns along that area. And the only thing that I could say was, why were they dropping in there? Were they dropping in there to be potential guards for the routes of where they're smuggling this stuff in? And then we find out that they were being issued Social Security numbers in Detroit.
Yeah, a primary reason they were dropping them in upstate New York was the wilderness is very expansive there. If you're not an outdoor survivalist, for example, and you got stuck in those mountains in the Adirondacks, you'd be DRT in no time, but very understaffed. Not a lot of CBP there. And the CBP that are there are part of the Thousand Islands facility. And the Thousand Islands facility is a training facility. So, I mean, you got to have a training facility somewhere. But it was they identified it rightly so as a weak spot in our defenses. Now, that being said, I've heard through the grapevine, haven't confirmed it, but my sources are good on this stuff, that they have beefed up CBP now in upstate New York since Trump got in. And we've actually got JJ Carroll coming on Sunday evening, and we'll raise that topic with him. Of course, he was a 23-year CBP special agent, so I'm sure he'll have some insight. But it's a big problem. It really is. And for the Canadians to downplay it. Not the Canadians, for the Canadian government to downplay it.
The bureaucrats.
Yeah, I mean the Canadian people, they're our cousins, and there's no bad blood there whatsoever. But the Canadian government was taken over by Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum many years ago, and they're our enemies. I don't know how.
She says they've increased surveillance. So what? Oh, great! I stuck a camera outside my house. What's that going to do?
Yeah. So, well, that's another thing, right? Is that some of the border surveillance, and we have some on the southern border as well, where we have these cameras watching. We actually have manpower to deploy on the southern border pretty quickly, and you know that from talking to Doc Pete and the voice. But when she's saying that Canada has detection devices, they have nobody to deploy anywhere near that.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, not until they just came up with this $1.3 billion to help protect the northern border or face the tariffs, right? So, but yeah, very tough to defend. And even if you have cameras and you can't get anybody there, it doesn't matter.
And if they're already in the water, too late.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next one up. This is pretty interesting. Judge denies CBS motion to dismiss Trump 60 Minutes lawsuit as he demands $10 billion more. Okay, so background to this is Kamala Harris does the interview with 60 Minutes. They edited it heavily, and she still looked like an ass. So they edited a second time to try and make her look a little bit more coherent. And then this judge said, you have to release the raw footage and the transcript, which they did. And it was an even bigger disaster than anybody could have imagined. So this case was a $10 billion lawsuit for election interference on Trump's part. It comes out, now he's doubled it to 20 billion. And the judge is saying, no, we're not going to dismiss this case. You very actively interfered in an election doing this. This has the potential as to, and I'm sure you know this, to become a really good precedent to putting the lamestream legacy media in check, because they've done this stuff repeatedly, right? And it cuts both ways. This is where the Fine People hoax started, with them selectively editing video. If Trump wins 20 billion on this, I don't know that CBS is still around. They're probably out of business and gobbled up by somebody else. But what it does do is makes the other legacy media companies go, maybe we shouldn't edit this video of Trump or JD Vance or somebody to make them look bad. And maybe we shouldn't edit this video of a shit for brains Kamala Harris to make her look smart. This has the potential to change the landscape, is what I'm saying.
She's the gift to conservatives. Let her keep talking.
Amen.
I mean, I think she's talking about running in 2028. Go ahead, please.
Absolutely. JD Vance will win in a landslide. And my prediction is Marco Rubio is his VP pick. I want to get that on the record now. He's the most matured politician I've ever seen in the blink of an eye. I don't even know who he is. He was our senior senator here for years. And he sure as hell didn't have the balls on him that he's got now. Kudos for that. So Hamas dismisses Trump demand to release all hostages. And Trump basically said, all right, well, you have till 12 noon local time in Gaza, Israel time, to release all of the hostages, not 2 or 3, and then another 2 or 3 and another 2 or 3, and bartering back and forth. And if you don't release all the hostages by noon on Saturday, all hell is going to break loose. And then he got Netanyahu to sign off on that as well. Thoughts on this one as to, like, I can see this going both ways. I don't know that I have a strong feeling to go one way or the other, but you could convince me otherwise if you have some compelling argument.
Netanyahu's already asking Trump to turn him off, to turn the chain off of him. He's already asking to set him loose. I mean, basically they're on a mission to completely destroy Hamas wherever they are.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go.
Neither do I. I don't have a gut feeling on this one. Honestly, I wish they'd just keep this fucking shit over there in their part of the world and for us to get the hell out of it. But of course, our government's been infiltrated on too many levels to do that.
If they would just return our hostages, we would keep our nose out of it. but they've got some of our people over there. If you return our people, then we'll leave you alone. It's that simple.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the CIA and other groups have done some shitty things, and they don't trust us for that reason. But we'll get off of that.
That's why USAID's around.
Yeah. So this is on point, by the way, for this topic that we were just discussing on the last slide. John Rocker posted this, the original guy to get canceled. I love it. He's awesome. This is an 8-minute video, and I can't play an 8-minute video. And I can't always copy and paste stuff into the chat here on StreamYard and have it go to every destination. But I just blasted it out. We're broadcasting 8 platforms tonight, by the way. And I'll throw it over here on Rumble. So if you want to go grab the brief, that's great. If you don't want to grab the brief for tonight, for whatever reason, I want everybody to have this link because it's really, really important. This describes just how badly we've been infiltrated by terrorists. So John Rocker's take on it: at the People's Conference for Palestine, protesters gathered and openly voiced plans to destroy the United States of America. This should be very disturbing for every American who wants to live in peace. Our enemies are inside the USA. I'm just going to play the first couple minutes so people get a taste for it. But the link should be in most, if not all, of the chats that we're broadcasting to. And if it's not, go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, sign up for an insider membership there. All right, here we go.
I caution you of the days to come, because they will not be easy. There are people among us today who might not be with us next year at this conference. And this is the reality, because the liberation struggle requires sacrifice. And I know everyone here is prepared to make that sacrifice.
In May 2024, over 100 organizations gathered for the People's Conference for Palestine in Detroit, Michigan. More than 3,000 activists were in attendance. Speakers celebrated the October 7th massacre, called for resistance against the West, and mapped out a vision for the destruction of America from within.
The Palestinians who came to the United States understood their role immediately upon arrival.
We, the movement for Palestine in North America and across the world, are here to fight until victory.
This violent movement has been growing for decades. It's made up of groups including Within Our Lifetime, Students for Justice in Palestine, the Palestinian Youth Movement, and many others. After the October 7th attacks, anti-Israel groups in America were emboldened. They saw the massacre as an opportunity to intensify hostility toward Jews and America.
When I think about the USA, it should burn! Death to America!
As the movement worked nonstop to legitimize the Hamas attack, the activists openly flaunted their hatred of Jews and Israel through protests, vandalism, encampments, and violent assaults, both in the streets and on college campuses. Flags of terror organizations became commonplace in public spaces.
I support Hamas! I am Hamas!
We are Hamas! Yes, we're all Hamas!
Activists celebrated the brutality of the October 7th massacre, drawing inspiration from the barbaric acts of terrorism.
It was exhilarating! It was energetic!
Glory to our martyrs, our heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice.
I salute Hamas. A job well done.
On October 7th, Hamas declared war on Israel. On October 8th, their supporters declared war on America.
All right, so I'm going to stop it there. So I would encourage everybody to go watch the balance of that video. It's pretty shocking stuff. It's not shocking to S2, myself, and the rest of us at Survival Dispatch because we live in this world day in, day out. But maybe this will jog a few people. And I'm not suggesting you in the audience. I know we've got a really astute audience. But maybe you watch this and share it with some people who need the light switch turned on so they realize just how infiltrated we are and how much danger we're in. This next terrorist attack on the homeland is going to be Absolutely terrible. I got a 7-second message from our friends at Flex Industries. We'll be right back with Chapter 3. So flexindustries.com, owned by a good friend of mine. He's been in the trigger game for quite some time. He's, designed some incredible triggers. He just started Flex Industries a couple months ago. We're not getting any affiliate money or anything like that. Go to flexindustries.com, discount code SD17, S as in Sam, D as in David, 17, get 17% off. That was the 3MR AR trigger. They've got one for the AK called the AK Flex. Got another one for Glock pistols that's legal, unlike a Glock switch, called the G Flex. Would really appreciate it if you helped him out to get this business off the ground. Super guy, hardcore Second Amendment supporter, puts his money where his mouth is too, by the way, when it comes to the Second Amendment. All right, we're into Chapter 3. So interesting, zany, sometimes funny, sometimes not funny stories and memes. And the first one up here, this is pretty awesome. Short video, 19 seconds. I truly feel God has heard these prayers and has kept our rightful president, Trump, safe for this pivotal time in history.
Alpha Foxtrot, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Trump Force 1, contact departure. Trump Force 1 to departure. Thank you for that, sir.
Right on. I don't know what else to say about that, ST, if you want to add anything to it, but that's a good trend in my mind. All right, next one up. The dog that found the drugs is posing very proudly.
That's my stash. Get away from it.
Oh my God. Tell me that is not priceless. That is friggin' awesome.
It's my stash, not yours. You cannot have it.
Yeah, too friggin' funny, huh? All right. Yeah, this is something about trans people. I don't remember if we're going to need therapy after this or not, but 39 seconds.
Trans people are now more regulated than guns. Let that sink in.
The United States currently has more than 20,000 gun laws and regulations between local, state, and federal levels. Firearms also require a background check and a serial number. Do you have a serial number? Additionally speaking, guns are not allowed in hospitals, schools, federal buildings. I'm not allowed to travel freely from state to state with my firearms. So, it would also be considered child endangerment to leave my child unattended with one. Does that apply to you too? Yeah. So anyways, that's just wildly untrue.
I like that. Leaving my child alone unattended with a tranny.
Right.
Yeah.
That actually turned out a lot better than I remembered it. And yeah, this is funny. Cindy's got a Roomba. She likes to be in bare feet, born and raised here in Florida, so she hates any dirt inside the house. The fucking thing drives me nuts. It's like the torture that never ends, but this is pretty funny. Just going for a cruise.
I like the ones with the cats riding on top.
Yeah. This is the first one I've seen a youngin like that take the helm, but it's pretty funny. All right, this is freaking hilarious from the redheaded libertarian. When you have a parliamentary vote at 11, but have to slay a woolly mammoth at noon. This is Russian member of parliament Nikolai Valev has been banned from entering Azerbaijan, blah, blah, blah. But yeah,
okay.
I don't know what to say. It's a throwback to a caveman Neanderthal, I guess. All right, this one's freaking hilarious. I guarantee this is somewhere in Louisiana. Bro is living his best life.
Not necessarily. That could be anywhere. It could be Kentucky too.
It could be, but that's pretty funny. Bringing the possum to the bar.
They're actually very clean animals.
They are. Yes, they are. All right. Next one up. My wife is a huge Michael Jackson fan. She was a professional dancer. She danced at Disney, all sorts of places. I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I heard the halftime show was terrible. This person says it's the greatest Super Bowl halftime performance in history. Not sure if it is or not, but figured I'd play it anyways. 51 seconds. So just want to get this in frame. That girl on the right side of our screen, just down a level from the main stage, she was Michael Jackson's guitar player forever and a day. And we were just in Vegas. We stayed a few extra days after SHOT Show was over. We went to the Michael Jackson musical, theatrical thing, and she was playing. She's still doing it. She's an amazing guitar player, by the way.
Until he decided to bring Eddie Van Halen in to do a particular solo in a particular song.
Yeah, she's still pretty impressive, but yeah, point taken. All right, this is good. Watch the black guys' reactions here to this, and they're not in the same location, by the way. Somebody's just blurred the two videos together. But if there's a bar fight, yo, I caused it. White trash, baby. 1 minute and 4 seconds.
I won't stop. I'm on a white trash mission. Bumper sticker says I'd rather be fishing. Cutoffs fit way too tightly. Get fucked up and I do it nightly. Run from the cops down my road. Can't leave my house because I'm on parole. Where with my ear with a damn Roman candle. Trash! Get drunk and sleep till noon. Lava lamp and a snake in my bedroom. Free bird is my favorite melody. Disabled because my four-wheeler fell on me. Smoking so much meth, I need to gain weight. My pit bull's loose because I don't like the gate. If there was a bar fight, yeah, I caused it. Lost my front tooth because I never flossed it. White trash, baby.
Now that is in Louisiana.
Pumpkin did 3 days in jail for screwing up. Pumpkin, Percocet, and fentanyl I'm taking. Need another drink because my hands are shaking. Cops beat me right in the temple. Now I can't think I'm real.
I got to tell you, that one is right up there with the lady who stole the Christmas tree by shoving it up her wazoo. It's right up there.
No, that was a can't see moment. This one I could watch.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking as far as funny is concerned. All right, something flipping the other way to something a little bit more serious here. I always wondered why Nixon was so hated. He knew. 1 minute, 26 seconds. Following conversations between Billy Graham and Richard Nixon were recorded in 1970.
You see, the Bible makes a distinction, Mr. President, between two groups of Jews. One is called the synagogue of Satan. There's two different kinds. And those people in the latter days is called the remnant of God's people, which will be Jewish people. And then there's the synagogue of Satan. And nearly all of your religious deceptions in the latter days, what the Bible speaks latter days to be 1,000 years, what they call the synagogue of Satan. In other words, they are energized by a supernatural power called the devil. This is what the Bible teaches. Whether you believe it or don't believe it, this is the biblical teaching. This is what I believe. And I believe that they have a strange brilliance about them. They're smart, and they are energized, in my judgment, by a supernatural power. Also, they do something else. And you see, of course, Hitler didn't. They had a stranglehold on Germany, on the banking of Germany, on everything in Germany, and the media. They had the whole thing, you see, but he went about it wrong. But this stranglehold has got to be broken, or this country is going to go down the drain. Yes, sir. I can't ever say it, but I believe it.
Yeah, I got a feeling we're going to learn a whole bunch more of this kind of stuff, although not relative to the video that's up there as to what are your thoughts on the FBI mysteriously finding 14,000 new records related to the JFK assassination that nobody even knew existed, including
yeah, I also want to know where the Tesla records are too.
Yeah. My guess is the ink's still wet on the paper. Right. All right. The next, okay, we're going back to funny haha now. Dave Chappelle tells you how Trump, the star, was born. 1 minute, 28 seconds. Chappelle Kill said. I can't add anything to that. God bless Dave Chappelle. All right. So remember, the same people terrified of DOGE wanted to hire 80,000 additional IRS agents to audit you. It was actually 87,000. Just to be clear. All right, next one up. Why is Trump the only world leader calling out a genocidal anti-white government? We played a video on this the other night ago. I'm not going to play this video, but essentially this guy and his buddies are calling for the murder of all the Boers, which are white people, originally came from Holland and Germany. And it is absolute genocide. They just passed a law saying that the government in South Africa can take land vis-a-vis eminent domain with no compensation. The eminent domain's bad enough as it is, but to do it with no compensation is unheard of. So anyway, next one up, breaking. DOGE is apparently going to be investigating Barack Obama's purchase of 65,000 hot dogs and pizza for a single event while president. A claim that originated from a leaked Stratfor email saying that Barack Obama spent 65,000 on hot dogs and pizza from Chicago has been cause for concern for years. We may now find the truth. So it's $65,000 in hot dogs and 50,000, lo and behold, finds its way back into his pocket. That's how the scam goes.
When a pack of hot dogs only costs, I mean, even if they're Chicago top grade hot dogs, they're still $10 a pack.
Yeah, and we're going back years, right? So it's probably $5 or less. This post is from our friend Tyler White, so he's part of the crew at Survival Dispatch. It's 2 minutes and 4 seconds. I probably won't play the whole thing, but I'll play enough that you can get the gist of it. There's some pretty powerful statements in this video.
Dear Democrat Party supporters who may be confused, I get it. You're watching all of this unfold, the shifting political landscape, Trump's growing support, and the rise of the new Republican Party, and you're wondering, what is happening? Let me be clear. The new Republican Party is not the old Republican Party. In fact, it doesn't even include many so-called Republicans, because they're part of the same corrupt system that has been stealing from you, lying to you, and keeping you distracted while they consolidate power. This isn't about party loyalty anymore. It's about freedom versus corruption. Ask yourself, how much more are you willing to overlook? A massive government audit just exposed billions in fraud. That should be a win for everyone. But suddenly, some people are panicking, acting like accountability is a bad thing. Why? Because when corruption is exposed, the guilty scramble. If you're against rooting out fraud, you're either benefiting from it, or you're so deep in party loyalty that you can't handle the truth. Do you realize how wealthy this country is? Do you understand how much has been stolen from you while you struggle with rising costs and empty promises?
I'll stop it there. For our insiders, paying insiders, the brief was posted to Patreon earlier today and has the link to this if you want to watch the whole video. It has a link.
That's John Wheaton behind that mask.
Oh, you blew his cover, S, dude.
Oh, damn it.
This is pretty funny. Check this out. PBS drops DEI, announces Bert and Ernie are now straight.
The look on Bert's face. Really?
All right. So here's a conspiracy theory one for you. I'd love to know what happened here. So Trump fired this Biden holdover. Biden awarded this man the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Here he is with the man that tried to assassinate Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Is anyone investigating the reason why he was really given this award? So this picture of course, before Ryan Ruth tried to kill President Trump. I can't remember the guy's name who got the presidential award. I don't know if you remember or not. Yes, but just they think that nobody's going to figure this out, right? Like,
well,
there's nobody out there like you that will dig and dig and dig and dig and find these connections.
Well, I don't know if you know this or not, if you caught this today, but they have created a new committee for transparency in the government now, and they are going to be releasing all of the assassination files. So we're going to learn a lot, and honestly, there is going to be carpet bombing of truth bombs going on over the next 6 months.
Yep, I believe it 100%.
And if you think the Democrats are freaking out now, oh.
Well, and let's be realistic here. I mean, with USAID, they're scratching the surface. There's an order of magnitude more scamming going on in other branches of government agencies, etc. So Laura Loomer, she was in DC, by the way. So this is exclusive to her. Democrat Congresswoman Rep. Dexter says, fuck Trump at protest, then lied about it when confronted. Laura Loomer confronted her about her language member of Congress as she was leaving the stage, and the Congresswoman lied about saying, fuck. Why did Democrats lie so much? Video doesn't lie, Congresswoman. 41 seconds.
I want to talk to y'all. They are afraid of you. Congresswoman, you think saying F Trump's appropriate behavior? You think that's appropriate behavior?
I've been told I have 30 seconds. So I am going to tell you that we do have to, I don't swear in public very well, but we have to fuck Trump.
You think that's an appropriate behavior for members of Congress?
Who votes for this? I don't think anybody votes for it. I think it's another installed person, to be honest with you.
People in Oregon. She looks like a granola eater.
Yeah, you could say that. One of the things USAID was doing was offering free circumcisions throughout the world, but charging U.S. taxpayers ridiculously high prices. I decided to compete for the business. So earlier today, Elon Musk changed his name to Harry Balls until somebody on CNN said it, and then he changed it back. That's all he wanted to do is get them to say Harry Balls on CNN. and circumcisions at a discount now, 50% off. Dana Bash was the one who said it. I don't
she
know.
always takes the bait. She's so
yeah. I don't know if I can find it this quick or not. Yeah, there it is right here.
Now, the disruptor in chief, Elon Musk, who apparently has adopted the alias, at least he changed his social media handle to Harry Balls, tweeted this morning.
He no sooner said that on CNN, and he was like, yeah, I changed it back to Elon Musk. I just wanted to see if I could get her to say Harry Ball.
He needs to change. So all 4 of the names that they found out on Reddit or GitHub, they need to change. He needs to change his name every day back and forth between those. The next one should be Big Dickus.
Oh my God. Pretty good stuff. But all right. So here we go. Trump's military versus Biden's military.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Ain't that a friggin' mouthful right there? And actually, we have another one of him right here. I'm on the brute squad. Dude, you are the brute squad.
No shit.
Oh, right on.
He looks like the dude Swede from that Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah, he's a big dude. There's President Trump patrolling on horseback. You voted with him to hire 80,000 IRS agents to audit citizens. We voted in Trump to audit you. Amen to that. There's Snoop Dogg.
Hey, where did that come from?
Probably from you. Oh yeah, there's your blue background. This is me. This is me not sniffing kids. I wouldn't say I would die without my morning coffee. I'm just saying other people might. That's a true story right there. Yeah, I farted. What are you going to do about it?
That was mine too.
What do you mean there's no coffee? Yeah.
Me and Mike were having a back and forth this morning.
It's funny shit. One free helicopter ride. That's a good one. Attention, if you see this man, run back to where you came from. Conspiracy theory no more. 2 reasons why fraudulent social security numbers were provided to illegals by Democrats. A, 10,000 illegals used the same exact social security number voted in Arizona's 2020 presidential elections. B, the reason the radical Democrats don't want an audit of social security fraud is because they're scamming off a $1.7 trillion slush fund. It's beyond massive. He warned us a long time ago. This is Stacy Street, Director of Grants at FEMA's Grant Directorate. Street is responsible for approving and dispersing funds for 96 grant programs, including the Shelter and Services Program for non-citizen migrants. She was the one who defied President Trump's executive order. She's one of the 4. So we showed the other girl. She's one of the 4, but there you go. Director of Office Grants. The left and media were silent as Joe Biden or whoever was in charge waged war on American people. They are now outraged as their ivory tower built on corruption and lies is being exposed. Donald Trump isn't manufacturing a constitutional crisis. He's dismantling one. This is exactly what the American people voted for. Sure is. All right. Want to hear crazy? An approximate 35,000 jobs, you read that correctly, have already reportedly been lost in Jordan since USAID cuts have taken place due to DOGE. So America has been employing 35,000 Jordanians as 6 million Americans remain unemployed. Breaking: Senate Democrats led by Chuck Schumer are going to attempt for a 3rd time to stall Kash Patel's confirmation vote that is scheduled for February 13th. And that would be because Kash is going to drop the hammer on them.
Wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Breaking: the FAA announces it's changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America and changing Denali back to Mount McKinley on all data and charts. I noticed that Google Maps and Apple Maps have both changed it too. Nice balls, bro. Meet the dog that holds the world record for most balls in his mouth. The record for humans is held by Kamala Harris.
I was busy this morning. What do you want?
I may look cute, but I like my balls. My paws are frozen. Man, I wish that was my only problem. That's literally the definition of balls deep in a non-sexual manner. Yeah, what mental retardation looks like. Yeah, is so true. Wait a minute.
It's in there twice.
Okay, I had to do a double take on that there. This is interesting. Case dismissed. Trump's DOJ to toss Eric Adams' historic bribery case. Agrees with them that charges were politically motivated by Biden admin. So he went against Biden on the immigrant stuff. All of a sudden, these, charges came up, multiple charges against him. And it turns out they were all bullshit. And Eric Adams, he's still a Democrat, but he's done some okay moves.
That's why he wasn't on my bingo card, because he made a deal.
Yeah, agreed. I hereby grant Elon Musk and his team permission to audit my tax dollar spending by the government and all agencies signed an American citizen and taxpayer. There you go, Democrats. He works for me now. Make gas cans pour again.
Oh, shit.
Fuck.
I tear the tops off of those new gas cans every time I buy one.
Absolutely brutal. I showed this one already, but it's worth mentioning again. The judiciary is most certainly not a co-equal branch of the government. Only the Supreme Court is. The rest of the federal judiciary is inferior. The Constitution's words, not mine, and was created by and exists entirely at the pleasure of Congress. Inferior federal judges who see themselves as equal to the president or Congress are wrong as a matter of both law and facts. Hey, Dems, we want our money back. That should say Dems and RINOs. Remember the people you're arguing with followed arrows to walk around a grocery store. So fucking true. The FBI illegally conducted searches on innocent Americans over 200,000 times. Not one Democrat protested. Flood the zone. Here you go. Gabbard, Patel, RFK Jr. Call your senators to confirm Trump's nominees. We have a link a little bit further on here in today's sit rep to get all of the contact info for all of the Congress critters.
Tulsi's up on a floor vote tomorrow.
Yeah, it looks like she's going to get it this time. From Libs of TikTok, the FBI leaked to Ticonderoga gang members that ICE was coming. I repeat, the FBI leaked to Ticonderoga gang members that ICE was coming, prison for life. We mentioned it earlier. It deserves to be mentioned again. There's big balls taking out government corruption, by the way.
There it is.
All right. And so this one here, I'm going to play the entire 2 minutes and 20 seconds. This is an amazing performance. And then that'll be the end of chapter 3. We've got a little bit of wrap up stuff with a conflicted question. But this is spectacular. Spectacular rendition. Absolutely amazing. All right, so we're in the home stretch here to get wrapped up. First things first, we've got homework, of course, at the end of each episode relative to the topic of the first chapter, which tonight is on these activist judges trying to derail President Trump's agenda that we all voted for. Your opinion and actions matter. So here are some things that you can do. Number 1, write emails and snail mails, letters to your congressional reps, and leave them voicemails expressing your disgust with the establishment raping us. Let them know you'll do everything in our power to vote them out of office if they support the ongoing stealing from the American taxpayer. Next one, speak up and counter the lies being told by the Democrats and RINOs that are being regurgitated by the sheeple. The biggest one is that USAID was created by an executive order by JFK in 1961 and can be just as easily nuked by an executive order from Trump. And the third point, if engaged in a debate, show the other party all of the deviant and illegal disbursement of funds for trans baloney, alphabet baloney, condoms for other countries to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Newsflash, no condoms were bought, straight up money laundering. Anybody who supports this crap is an anti-American commie, just like their false prophet, Barry Sortero. And again, you can go to GovTrack, govtrack.us, and get all the Congress critter information at /Congress/members/current. It's easier just to click on the link. Quick reminder, patreon.com/survival dispatch. Free memberships get 50% of the daily sit reps, highly curated news report essentially that we use to run our episodes each night. Those who pay $9.99 a month get all of our daily sit reps. They also get an invite to our encrypted signal chat that has a massive volume of information exchanged in there. It's well over 1,000 messages a day. It's hard to keep up with. And that is it. We are down to the conflicted question. And you're up, S2.
Okay, here we go. Simple. What triggered your interest in becoming a prepper?
And you know that it is an interesting question. Nothing ever triggered my interest in becoming a prepper. It's been second nature to me for as long as I can remember. I don't know if you want to call me like a closet hoarder or something like that, but I've always had the mindset that if I need 10, I want to stack up 15 or 20 of them just in case. So I think for some people it's just a personality trait, but I think for other people it's a matter of becoming aware of just how bad things are when you don't prep. The number one thing that everybody should be prepping for is what's most likely to occur in your geography. So that means that if you're here in the Southeast and Florida in particular, the most likely calamity that you're going to face is a hurricane. So it makes sense to prep for hurricanes because a lot of people don't know this, but anytime a hurricane approaches Florida, the cows stop making milk. It's just, you can't find it to save your life. Of course, I'm joking, but the grocery store shelves get cleared out of basics pretty quickly. Bottled water disappears. So it makes sense to be doing all year round from an economic standpoint as well, because, get an extra case of water when you go to the grocery and stack them up. And if you've got 40 cases stacked up, you should be able to survive just about any hurricane that comes along and maybe an extended calamity. I'll pass it over to you, S2.
Well, kind of what got me started was having been through almost every natural disaster on the planet, barring a volcano eruption and a few other things. I went through a self-starting forest fire, sort of, where I caught the backyard on fire once. But that's kind of really what did it for me. It wasn't because I was in any dire need for anything, but the realization of what could happen if this were, if I wasn't in a situation where I had what I needed to be able to get through it. And in most cases, I already had what I needed to get through it. And being a Marine, I'm used to adapting and overcoming to begin with. So it's always kind of been in my blood to be looking out for those things. And, I've always had this sixth sense about looking for where resources might be, and in the event that I might need something should something happen and I didn't have that resource. So it's kind of like me. I've always done an area study of where I've been ever since I was a kid. So
Okay, well, that's cool. So I got an error a couple minutes ago in StreamYard here saying that there was a problem with Facebook that we were broadcasting to, and apparently
well, some of the guys are complaining about on Rumble too, that something happened with them. They had to log out and log back in or something.
Yeah. So did we, I don't recall. We didn't show anything graphic content of somebody committing suicide, self-harming,
no
death, wounds, or anything like that, or
No.
animal abuse, right? That's
No.
why. That's why.
Other than maybe the dogs with hairy balls. I don't know.
We got smoked on Facebook because of it. So.
What's funny is Zuckerberg owns Meta, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he just bought TikTok also. And what do they show on TikTok all day long?
Yeah.
Like,
well, then he just did a big mea culpa with Donald Trump and Joe Rogan as well. Stating that
trying to be one of the bird boys.
Yeah, and saying that it was the Biden admin, made him do all these things, blah 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 blah.
No, he didn't make you do anything that you didn't already want to do because your wife from China, who's connected to China, told you better do it or else.
Yeah.
Actually, it was probably the CIA that did it, but.
Either way, man, we're on fire this week. We're racking
it's going to get
strikes, having videos taken down, which is it's actually a good time to mention. This is precisely why Todd Callender hired my team to build Liberty Club. The go public date is actually February 26th now. We're waiting on some high-end server equipment, and we've got a new fiber pipe coming in just for that website, dedicated fiber. So it was supposed to be on the 20th. It's going to be February 26th. It's not a problem on our end as far as the development is concerned. We just need a real beast of a server and storage and internet pipe to put it on. But you will see none of that shenanigans happen at all on Liberty Club. Unless it's porn or it's illegal, everything will go on Liberty Club. Censorship free for the entire world. A bunch of our insiders are on there right now. I think we had about 75 test people on there, and they'll let you know it's pretty slick. Pretty proud of what my team's put together on it, and pretty blessed to have been asked to do this for Todd Callender. Elon Musk does not support free speech at the same level as Todd Callender, not even close. I've been kicked off 3 times in the past year for fomenting violence by quoting, the penalty for treason. I get stuff all the time that if I use a certain word, if I said that's a moronic idea, I end up getting an email in no time at all saying, yeah, we've hidden that so other people can't see it because you might hurt their feelings, blah, blah, blah.
You know what I think I know what happened. It was my mental retardation meme.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Honestly, it's chapter 3, so it's, we put an NSFW warning on chapter 3. I don't really give a fuck. Zuckerberg and Facebook and all these clowns can fuck off for all I care, because again, we're building our own platform, and Todd Callender's footing the bill. It's his platform, but we're doing it right. Somebody asked me to describe it in a meeting today, by the way, and I said, well, look, if you took the best of X, the best of Rumble, and the best of Facebook and combine them together in a super slick interface, that's what we've got. We've got a marketplace, for example, so if people want to sell stuff, they can, to like-minded individuals. We've got a full e-com. We won't have that publicly available when we launch, but it will be shortly thereafter. It'll be a bunch of products that Todd supports the people, do that stuff. It's kick-ass. So Liberty Club, February 26th will be available. The official launch is at 12 p.m. Eastern on February the 26th. And tonight, I got another cool video from our buddy Forgiato Blow. That's a stage name. He's Trump's nephew. This one's a little shorter than last night. It's 2 minutes and 19 seconds, but it's pretty good. I've got, I want to say, about 10 really good high quality videos lined up for the next week and a half or so to end. By the way, J6 grandma, Cindy Lou Young will be with us Friday night, working on confirming the date for Ken Shamrock and Don Mann to come on, but it's imminent, be very soon. JJ Carroll will be with us on Sunday evening, and the list goes on and on. We've been pretty fortunate to queue up some pretty awesome guests here in the imminent near future. We will be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, like we are 7 nights a week. Until then, please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America.
Hoorah.
They get these judges to sign the warrants. This is the same FBI, the same DOJ that comes out and doesn't prosecute any wrongdoing. They want to prosecute Donald Trump for what?
For what? I got a message for the FBI. Let's go play. I got a message for the DOJ. Let's go play. I got a message for you crooked politicians. Let's go play. I got a message for you Democrats in the deep state. You know I'm praying for Trump. You know I'm praying for Mar-a-Lago. You know it's 2 years later and the facts they can't swallow. With Hillary's email, she deleted them details. Gas prices about as high as Hunter bought his crack. Orange man got one go, that's keep America great. And if you voted for Joe, then we cannot relate. Why get a search warrant? All it took was a subpoena. He just gave y'all 15 boxes and y'all still couldn't beat him. I got a message for the FBI. Let's go play. I got a message for the DOJ. Let's go play. I got a message for you crooked politicians. Let's go play. I got a message for you Democrats in the deep state.
Is you FBI or is you KKK? Is you FBI or is you KKK? You can't play both sides, I hear Joe. 10% for the big guy who ruined our nation. I know I'm probably gonna get banned for this one. These rebels crying, screaming, yelling, but don't get done. Welcome to Biden's America, where immigrants run wild. Sick of J6 hearing, but what about Portland burning down? He's mad, he's relevant. I thought he ain't president. Untouchable 45, we know that he's heaven sent. They still trying to F him over, yeah, but he's celibate. There's a red wave come, we know you dummies just about to switch. Yeah, it's the mayor of Megaville, baby. All this hate is just bringing us more power. Trump 2024. You know all this right here is just trying to get our boy hemmed up on something so he can't run. That's all they want. They're trying to ruin the people. They're trying to ruin the country. I love all my fellow patriots, all my fellow Americans. They can ban me all they want. I'm standing tall. Blow. Let's go.